So, hello everyone, and welcome to our new podcast, Perspectivas, Global Talks on Higher Education by UNESCO IESALC. I'm Emma Sabzalieva, I'm Head of Research and Foresight at the Institute, and in today's introductory episode, we're very pleased to welcome you to the podcast, to our Institute, and joining us to tell us more is our Director, Dr. Francesc Pedró. Francesc, thanks so much for joining us today. Can you start by telling us a little bit about the Institute? What is UNESCO IESALC, and how does it fit in as part of the broader UNESCO family?
With pleasure. Thanks for this opportunity, Emma. First of all, let me recall that UNESCO was created shortly after the Second World War, precisely as a way of promoting a culture of peace throughout the work in culture, science, and education. In years after its creation, UNESCO decided to set up a network of international institutes on the hope that having an academic branch devoted on the one hand to research and generating evidence and promoting discussions, and on the other hand contributing to capacity development, it will be easier for UNESCO to achieve its goals in terms of the promotion, as I said, of a culture of peace. Over the years, the education sector, one of the most important sectors of the activity of UNESCO, has created 7 international institutes. Ours, the UNESCO International Institute for Higher Education in Latin America and the Caribbean, is located in Caracas, Venezuela, where it was originated back in 1974. And we have been operating here primarily with a projection having in mind the needs of the region, Latin America and the Caribbean, but increasingly having, I would say, a global ambition. And I would like to say that as an institute, as the other 6 institutes in the education sector, we have been always aligned with the UNESCO global agenda, the UNESCO's priorities in the area of education. And that's why, in a way, the institutes tend to be far more flexible, I would say, probably, than an office, because we operate quicker, so to say. We have a spirit of detecting immediately emerging needs and responding to that, while at the same time we are, in a way, free to explore avenues that lead to innovation or futures thinking, for instance. So that's why the work of our institute is so well, I would say, aligned with UNESCO, and at the same time spurs innovation in what UNESCO does in the area of higher education.
Excellent, thanks. And perhaps we should also explain that our acronym IESALC follows the Spanish language version of our name. So we, as an institute, as you work now bilingually between Spanish and English. So one of the exciting things that we're doing with this podcast is recording different episodes for different linguistic audiences. This one, though, you've got the pleasure of doing twice, once with me in English and once with our colleague Victoria in Spanish. So speaking about the podcast, it's one of our innovations that you mentioned. Can you, tell a little bit more about the aim of the podcast and what we're hoping to achieve with it?
Yes, I think that a podcast is an avenue for an international institute to reach a wider audience. I think that as the rest of UNESCO International Institutes, what we do is usually reflected in webinars, in workshops, in conferences, and as well as in our reports. But we tend to use a language that suits the needs and I would say, the expectations of a reduced community, which is the community of thinkers, of policymakers, of university administrators. While, as a matter of fact, and we have been working among others with you, Emma, on this, our most important audience, which is students and teachers, may be left out of our conversations simply because we don't use the appropriate channels or the appropriate language. And that's where this series of podcasts fit very well in, because we would like to use this podcast as a way not only of disseminating our work using a language that really speaks to a wider audience, but also a way of outreaching, and getting feedback from those audience. We are here to serve not only institutions and national governments, but also the needs of teachers, students, and technical staff in universities. So it's important that we use the channels where they are already, participating. And that's why this new series of podcasts can be an excellent way of, maybe I should say, a two-way communication avenue between the Institute and those new enlarged audiences.
Excellent. So it's IESALC on the go. Take us with you, hear what we've got to say, but also tell us more about higher education. So I think, as you've mentioned, this is going to be great for people who are inside higher education, but also reaching people who are outside of higher education, whether that's a young person thinking about what their next steps might be in their educational journey, or somebody thinking about re-entering higher education, or somebody just curious to know more. Sounds great. So tell us, what can we expect to hear in the coming season? What's coming up?
Well, many things. And I think we are going to release very soon the program for this series. But anyway, I can already anticipate that we are going to have episodes dealing not only with our most important activities, and let me mention a few of them. I mean, I already talked a bit about our work on the futures of higher education, but there is also an impressive amount of work on the transformation of higher education in the region and globally. So this is just an example. But remember that now we are just exiting the COVID crisis, where we are going to see, and that's going to be a very interesting conversation, whether the provision of higher education goes back to what it was before the pandemic, or it's going to change dramatically, as some have claimed during the pandemic. Now, before the pandemic, we already had a number of challenges that are already there, that are persisting in time. Let me just remind you that the contribution of higher education to the different sustainable development goals really sets a very important agenda for UNESCO and for our institute. So we are going to see in which ways, for instance, higher education can contribute to gender equality, to a social inclusion, and to any sorts of sustainability. Because I think that the most important contribution that higher education can make today is probably to ensure that the future generations of professionals and academics have really a clear commitment towards the sustainability. We have only one planet. We are only just one humankind. So we need to make sure that we plan for our future, which has started already decades ago, so to say, in a sustainable way. We need to change dramatically, and higher education has a role to play. So I think that this is the kind of exciting conversations to which we will bring not only our own staff and people like yourself, Emma, and others who are going to, in a way, participate in different sessions, but also some other people working in universities, working in international organizations, working also in companies, just to share with us their views about the challenges higher education is facing globally and primarily also in our own region.
Sounds really exciting for everyone who's involved, and I'm kind of laughing at that because we've had such such a lot of interesting time thinking about what we can put forward in the podcast, and at the same time there's so much to say. So I really hope that what we can put forward in this first series is, it's a taster of what could come. And like you said before, just bringing people in this kind of more of a two-way and interactive dialogue so that we can really position the work that we're doing at ESALC as relevant in a much wider way as part of what UNESCO is also doing, and just bringing forward the historical mission of UNESCO as it relates to peace with today's sort of agenda relating to sustainable development, and how we take all of those ideas forward and channel that both through what higher education does, but also the impact that higher education has on the world around us. So this is just a sort of taster introduction episode before we get the season started. Perhaps, Francesc, you could help listeners and viewers know more about how they can follow the podcast.
Yes, indeed. Well, first of all, our plan is to release a podcast session every 2 weeks. Okay, that's initially, but my expectation is that the rhythm of producing podcasts is going to increase over time, because we are really seeing that many people are shifting towards podcasts because of the facility, of getting connected and deciding when and how you would like to hear this exciting conversation. So I think that this is a very important channel, as I said, for dissemination. Now, people interested in knowing more about the series and the next episodes are recommended to visit, first of all, our website, esalc.unesco.org, where they are going to not only to find the reports, the events, the conversations, but also a link to the different podcast services where they can locate us. Among others, the classical ones like Spotify, for instance, and many others, where you are going to be able to download for free, of course, our podcast. So for more details, please visit regularly our own website, where you are going to find the links of the different episodes.
Excellent. And we know that both viewers and listeners, because this is an audio-visual podcast, will be able to follow us, and we hope people will be able to catch us also on social media. We're active on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. If you search for UNESCO IESALC, you'll be able to find us there, producing content also in English and Spanish. Francesc, thanks so much for your time today. I think everybody's now super excited about Perspectivas, the new podcast series from UNESCO IESALC. We are very grateful for your time today, and we're really looking forward to the series to come. Thank you very much, Francesc.
Thank you to you, Emma, and to the whole team. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.